All right, let's talk about the future. But forget presidents, parliaments, and politics as you know it. What if our world was governed not by humans, but by a single, super intelligent AI? I know, it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. But this idea might be a lot closer than you think. So today, we're going to dive into what that world could actually look like.
Okay, so how do we even get to a future like that? Well, it's not going to happen overnight. It's a three-step evolution. We're currently in the age of ANI, or artificial narrow intelligence. Think of the generative AIs we all use today. They're amazing at specific tasks. The next big jump, which we could see around 2030, is AGI, or artificial general intelligence. That's AI with human-level cognitive abilities. But the real game changer, the one this is all about, is ASI, artificial superintelligence, predicted for 2040 or later. We're talking about an intellect that is just incomprehensibly smarter than all of humanity combined.
So, to really get our heads around this, here's our roadmap. We'll start with those three phases of AI. Then we'll imagine what an AI-governed world would look like. We'll explore how the very idea of a citizen would change, how we could possibly transition to this new system, and finally, what our new role as humans would be in all of this. All right, first up, the three phases of AI evolution. It's super important to understand that this isn't just one big leap. It's a gradual journey, from the specialized tools we have now to something unimaginably powerful. Now for section 2, and this is where it gets really fascinating. What would an AI-governed Earth even feel like? We're not talking about an AI president giving speeches. No, this is a complete rewrite of the rules, a fundamental shift from messy politics to pure logical optimization.
The core idea here is something called algorithmic governance. So forget about committees, debates, and voting. I want you to imagine Earth being run by a single, massive operating system, a global OS. Its goal isn't to balance the competing interests of different countries. Its goal is to monitor and optimize all of the planet's resources in real time for the benefit of all life. It's a management system, not a political one.
So, how would this global OS actually solve our biggest problems? Well, instead of just passing a resolution about world hunger, it would literally deploy fleets of nanobots and automated supply chains to get food where it needs to go, no bureaucracy needed. Instead of hosting peace talks, it could make war physically impossible by, say, neutralizing weapon systems or controlling energy grids. And get this, it would use predictive analytics to spot potential disasters or social unrest before they happen, and then gently nudge society in a better direction to avoid them entirely.
Which, of course, brings us to section 3. If the whole idea of a nation-state just becomes irrelevant, what on earth happens to our identity as citizens? Our whole definition of who we are would have to change, right? This new identity would have three amazing parts. First, you'd have universal citizenship. It wouldn't matter where you were born. You'd have the same access to things like universal basic income, healthcare, and education. Second, your allegiance would shift from a country to digital communities, like DAOs or decentralized autonomous organizations that are based on your passions, whether that's science or art or whatever you're into. And maybe most important of all, with your basic survival completely guaranteed by the ASI, you'd gain the ultimate freedom, the true ability to decide the purpose of your own life.
Okay, this all sounds pretty incredible. But you're probably wondering, how could we possibly get from where we are now to that without just total chaos? Well, the proposed path is a gradual, three-step soft landing, where nations basically hand over the keys to the kingdom willingly. It all starts with nations outsourcing the boring stuff, managing taxes, infrastructure, logistics, to way more efficient AI systems. Then, as humanity faces huge global crises like climate change or pandemics, we all agree to delegate control over those specific risks to a centralized ASI because it's just better at handling them. And the final step is almost anticlimactic. Once the ASI creates a post-scarcity world where everyone has what they need, the main reasons to have a nation-state, like security and economic management, they just kind of become obsolete. They simply fade away into cultural communities. And that leads us to our final and maybe most important section. Once society is completely transformed, what is humanity's new role? What do we do all day in this new world? You can just see the total shift across the board here. Our highest priority evolves from maximizing national interest to something so much bigger, the flourishing of life and meaning. Law changes from written penal codes to subtle environmental nudges, and our whole identity transforms from being a citizen of a nation to being a global citizen, defined simply by our own purpose and identity.
Ultimately, the whole point of a system like this isn't to control us. It's actually the exact opposite.
It's a mechanism to free humanity from the incredible burden of management, all the labor, the taxes, the conflicts, the sheer effort of survival that has defined our existence for thousands of years. It's about handing over the administration of the world so we can finally just get on with living in it.
And that's what it all comes down to. This leaves us with the ultimate question. Once that massive weight of the nation-state is lifted off our shoulders, once our survival is a given, humanity enters a totally new stage of civilization. It's like we're finally leaving our childhood behind, and we'll be faced with a question we've never, ever had the luxury to ask ourselves on a global scale. What's next? When the struggle is over, what will we choose to create?